Welcome back to the Explainer. You know, if you've ever felt completely stuck in a rut, or if you've looked at the world and thought, man, the old ways of doing things simply are not working anymore, well, you are definitely in the right place today. We're going to explore how doing the exact opposite of conventional wisdom might just be the absolute key to breaking through all that stagnation. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating text that asks a tough question. When the world is facing a recession, when politics are completely deadlocked, and the economy just seems frozen, how do you actually survive? The text suggests that in these moments, traditional methods are basically guaranteed to fail. So to survive and thrive, we have to radically shift our perspective. And that brings us directly to chapter 3 of our source material, which is titled Living Creatively. Now, the text advocates for a concept here that is as challenging as it is intriguing. The author argues that you can't just take yesterday's successes, stretch them into tomorrow, and expect to build a future. Instead, what we really need is a recommendation of reverse thinking, a deliberate sort of heterodoxy to break right through our current difficulties. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The power of reverse thinking. 2. When useless becomes valuable. 3. Reframing the strong yen. 4. The threat of big government. And 5. Individuality and self-reliance. Let's jump into section 1, the power of reverse thinking. All right, so let's start with the core concept that really anchors this entire analysis. The author introduces reverse thinking, or in the original Japanese text, it's called heisomagari. Now, this isn't just about being a contrarian for the fun of it. It is a deliberate, systematic method to repeatedly flip problems completely upside down. Think of it like this. When everyone else is staring blankly at a brick wall, reverse thinking asks you to look down at the floor to see if there's a tunnel. By forcing a totally different viewpoint, you suddenly uncover solutions that are just invisible to common sense. Moving right along to section 2, when useless becomes valuable. To see how this abstract idea actually plays out in the real world, the text looks at the micro level of everyday consumer goods, and it highlights this bizarre market paradox. Sometimes, the more objectively useless an item becomes at its original purpose, the higher the price it can actually command. Let's look at a quick comparison to make sense of this. Think about a standard watch. It's highly practical, right? It tells you the exact time clearly and efficiently. That is its basic common sense function. But then, the author points to what we could call reverse watches. These are luxury items with literally no hands, or maybe they're skeleton watches with all the internal gears exposed, completely sacrificing readability for aesthetics. By totally discarding the conventional utility of, actually telling time, the watch transforms into a rare piece of art. The reverse thinking here creates massive scarcity, and because of that, massive value. Section 3. Reframing the strong yen. Now, if this reverse thinking works for a luxury consumer product, how in the world does it apply to the macroeconomy of a whole nation? Well, this is where the text offers a truly fascinating reinterpretation of the appreciation of the Japanese yen. Traditionally, the media and politicians view a strong yen as an absolute crisis because it makes exporting goods so much harder. The conventional view is basically just panic. A strong yen hurts exports, it causes deficits, and it creates economic hardship. But the author completely neutralizes this negativity by applying that heisomagari, that reverse thinking. This reversed perspective argues that a strong yen is actually a testament to immense global trust. I mean, if the world is buying up your currency, they obviously believe in it, right? The text suggests viewing this not as a crisis, but as a rare historical opportunity for the yen to potentially step in and replace the dollar as a primary global reserve currency. Instead of crying over lost export margins, why not use that incredibly strong currency to buy global assets? It's a total 180-degree turn in perspective. Section 4. The threat of big government. Shifting gears from economics to societal structures, the text looks at how reverse thinking applies to political trends. Specifically, it examines that tendency for societies to revert to big government or socialist-style policies during tough economic times. And the source makes a deeply provocative claim here about the underlying motives of bureaucratic structures, noting that they often subconsciously prefer an economic downturn. Just take a look at the contrast here. The author argues that a bureaucratic mindset fundamentally prefers recessions, which sounds crazy, right? But why? Well, because when the private sector is struggling, businesses and citizens have to go begging the government for subsidies and bailouts. That reliance directly increases the bureaucracy's power and authority. This sharply contrasts with the capitalist spirit, which obviously prefers prosperity and independence, requiring way less government intervention. Through reverse thinking, the author is asking us to really question the actual incentives behind policies that claim to save the economy. This brings us to our final section, Section 5, Individuality and Self-Reliance. So in the face of all this systemic stagnation and this massive societal pull toward heavy reliance on the state, what is the ultimate solution? Well, the author concludes that simply blaming politics or just joining the crowd begging the government for a handout is the exact opposite of creative living. Doing that is just following the common sense that leads straight to a dead end. To truly live creatively and forge a new path, the text insists that we must cultivate unshakable individuality and self-reliance. Listen, when you start thinking in reverse, whether you're building a watch that doesn't tell time, celebrating a currency everyone else is panicking over, or rejecting state reliance, you are going to face criticism. The crowd will absolutely call you foolish. But the source material leaves us with this really powerful message: a strong individuality, one that outright refuses to be defeated by the noise and criticism of the crowd, is literally the only way to open up new frontiers. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. We've seen how flipping the script works for luxury watches, for national currencies, and for societal structures. So I want you to look at the absolute biggest obstacle you are currently facing in your own life or career right now. What is the common sense way you've been trying to solve it, and how might flipping that completely upside down be the exact key you need to unlock your future? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and remember, keep thinking in reverse.